What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall market. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000 or more, you're guaranteed 30 in total, not to mention 8.1% APY in uninvested cash. The offer has been extended until March 31st. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the market. Right now, SPY is up 1.5%. The QQQ is also pumping quite a bit right now during the pre-market. If we look at this right now, you guys can see the QQQ is up 1.79%, so it's doing a good job at holding up. The question is, why is the market holding up so well? Why are we pumping so much? And that's just because of CPI that just came out. The numbers are not looking bad whatsoever. So looking at the numbers, okay, core CPI is at 0.2% month over month. That is technically aligned with expectations, and that's a slight decrease compared to the last report. That's good news. Core PPI year over year is at 3.2%. That's technically below expectations. This is what the market wanted to see, and that's a good piece of news. CPI for all items month over month is at 0.4%. That is aligned with expectations. And then the CPI year over year is at 2.9%. That is technically aligned with expectations. However, I do want to say one thing that's not so good about this is the fact that this is technically an increase compared to before. Of course, the market was expecting that, and it's only by about 0.2%. So this does suggest that there is an increase in inflation that is continuing, but this is, of course, what the market was expecting, and it's not really a surprise, and that's why the market is still reacting more positively. So what's good is, for the first time in the last couple of months, right up here, we actually got a slight decrease in core CPI. That's all items without food and energy. However, when you look at all items CPI, it's been on a bit of an uptrend for the last couple of reports, continuing to climb. And even during the latest report, it's climbing a little bit. Despite that happening, the market is still optimistic and it's still trying to push. So to me, this is actually a good sign that, the market is gaining a little bit more confidence compared to before. But I do want to say that the market's gapping up really hard, and we have to try to sustain these levels. For now, there's potential for us to push more. I think we're doing a good job at holding up. I'll be watching some key levels just to be safe, so I want to make that very, very clear. On top of that, I just want to say that with the inflationary data, there's been a lot more optimism compared to before, because we're starting to see not only a lot more buyers, but big orders that are starting to come in, at least on the options chain. So based off order flow, there is a little bit more confidence, and we'll have to see if this perpetuates. On top of this, when it comes to other pieces of data, we just got big bank earnings that just came out. I'm going to summarize them, essentially not go over every detail. Goldman Sachs returned $3 billion to its shareholders in Q4. They also beat on earnings. The reports are showing that all of these big banks have beat on their earnings. JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs, and Citi are all doing relatively well. So Goldman Sachs returned $3 billion to shareholders, beating on earnings. Citigroup projects a full year return to climb. That's pretty good. If anything, that's going to be by about 11%. So good news for them. And they also beat on earnings. Goldman Sachs EPS beat was big, but not as big as last year's. So not bad whatsoever. That's still a nice beat and good guidance, if anything. And last but not least, we have Citi beating on revenue estimates as it swings a profit. That's pretty good news for them, if anything, especially in Q4, as they ended up beating the previous loss of last year. They're doing a lot better. And then on top of this, BlackRock is doing relatively well. They've kicked off the year with a record at $284 billion in inflow for a record to Q4. On top of this, they're also saying that they had assets under management of about $11.6 trillion. That's the second consecutive record in the total metric. Besides that, their EPS was beat at $11.93 and revenue at $5.68 billion, above expectations. All beats, good news, nice increases, very, very good news for them. We got the inflationary down and big banks earnings beating, so that's good for the market, at least thus far. And besides that, Meta says planning on cutting about 5% of its workforce. I don't see anything else that's too crazy on the news, so let's just focus on the charts. Good news, at least throughout the markets. So I want to say that it's awesome to see that the market's holding up, but I do have a concern. My concern is the fact that we are technically gapping up. There's a big gap forming. As long as we can hold above our key levels, this should attempts to continue. I hope that ends up being the case, but we'll see. So if we're bullish, as long as SPY is above 590, we could attempt to get closer to about the 594 area. So as long as 590 holds, we could slowly creep up towards that. That's where this resistance happens to be. And then we'll have to see if we could hold above that. So what might be happening is we try to push upon open just a little bit more. If we get a rejection and we end up losing 588s to 590, might be some kind of retest like this. You want to see a bounce off that to continue to go higher for that 600 target. If we can't hold 588, there's going to be a risk of us returning to about 584 or below. So just be careful, guys. We'll see if we get a bounce here or not, but just be very, very careful with this. I think we do push a little bit more, and we'll see if we get some kind of back test before it continues to go higher. If not, if it doesn't hold above 588, we turn back down, and we could be coming to 584 or below to fill that gap. Just be careful, but for now, we do favor upside, so I do think this might try to push a little bit more. We'll see how well this holds up. ES is looking more bullish. I think it might slowly try to attempt to get closer to about that 6,000 target. As long as we don't lose 59.50, we could try to continue to push closer to 6,000. We might push a bit, but if we can't sustain these levels, we could turn back down to about 59.50. So just be a little bit careful. I think overall we're doing a great job at holding up, but I would still be a little bit careful. For Nvda, we're looking okay. We're not looking as strong as before. We could be looking for an attempt to go up to 135 to 137. We'll see if you reject off that. Look for a small push towards 135 or above, and we'll see how well it holds up. Bitcoin's going for the 100,000 target. I think we test that, and we'll see if we break it. If it breaks, we're looking for this imbalance fill around 100,800. So I'll be watching that very closely. Tesla's testing 410. As long as we hold above that, we're looking for 414 and 420 is our targets. I think we push a bit more, but we'll have to see if Tesla can sustain these levels. If we hit 414, can we continue to climb to 420, or do we get a rejection and move back down towards 400? I'll be watching that. So watch 406 and 400 as our supports. We still favor upsets, just keep that in mind. NQ looks a bit more bullish. We're looking for essentially 21,400 as resistance. If we lose 21,220, we could be dipping. But I favor upside for 21,300 for now, and we'll see the reaction we get. Looking at others, we have Coin. Coin is looking a bit more bullish to me. I think that this could... I'm sorry, the QQQ looks a bit more bullish, not Coin. Sorry about that, guys. We have to try to break 15... this very, very key resistance around 513, excuse me. If that breaks, we're looking for an attempt to get back up to where this resistance is around 517. If we can't hold up at 513, we're looking for support at 511 and eventually 509. So look for a push upon open. If we end up losing like 511, we could be dumping back down towards like 507, which is where our imbalance happens to be. And if we manage to break above resistance, then we could continue to push. Look for an attempt to push like this. And if we get a rejection, you want to see us lose 511. If we bounce off that, we could continue to climb and form like an inverse head and shoulders. But if we lose 511, we're looking for 507. So keep those levels in mind just to be safe. Apple's trying to churn here. We have to see if we can hold above 137, start pushing higher. If not, if we lose 132, we turn back down. I think it's very flat right now, but it might try to push for 135. We'll have to see if we can sustain these levels at the very least. The Russell hit 226. We have to see if we could break that. If not, we could be returning to 224 and 222. So watch those levels very closely. For Coin, we look a bit more bullish. We have to see if we can break 270. There's a nice accumulation right over here. We could be retesting 264 before it tries to bounce, so just keep that in mind. Amazon looks a bit more bullish. Let's see if we can break 224 to continue to pump. Might retest 220. We'll just have to see if 222 holds or not. If not, we could be returning to 220. And we'll see if we get some kind of bounce or not. Meta is trying to bounce here as well. We have the 610 areas resistance and this gap to fill up here. So it may attempt to push to fill that gap around 615. If we lose 600, we're looking for 594 as the main support, but this does have potential to push a little higher. Microsoft as well could be trying to push this imbalance towards 424 as long as we don't lose 419. If 419 fails, still we're looking for 415 to come back again. So look for an attempt to push. And Google may be pushing for 196, and we'll see if it holds or not. With that being said, the market has potential to push. If we lose 193 on Google, we could turn back down. But I thank you all so much for listening. I think that the market's going to try to push a little bit more, but we'll have to see if we can sustain these levels because we are technically gapping up. So be a little bit careful with SPY and the others, and we'll see if these levels hold. Thank you for listening. Have a good day, and peace out.